Assalamu alaikum. Hi, Oracle Reiki Spiritual Healer. And, I wanted to come and talk to you about my third case. Excuse me. And so since it wasn't over with yet, I didn't want to tell you about it until it was over with, until I knew the outcome. And we all know that I've been on this mission for a minute now. And when I left, I turned over certain things to, my assistants. And my haberdashery was one of those things, the entire haberdashery, the trailer was in Henry County, Georgia, a well-known racist place, for black people to live. And I turned it over, to my assistant because, I wouldn't be there and she would be able to reap the benefits or, live there or whatever she wanted to do. In that time, I had already turned it over to her in 2022. And that is because we were having problems with the owners of the land fixing the land from flooding. And like I say, I had pictures of, the property flooding. I had pictures of potholes, kids falling in the potholes because I had my cameras up. And this is what I told everybody in the neighborhood to do. Take pictures with your phone. Get your evidence up. Call code enforcement. So, if in my mind, if it's enough of us, then we would be able to have some certain change. So, we're going to start from here at this part. When I say we're going to get everybody, most of the people in this community, in this trailer park, where my haberdashery was, I provided a service to the community. But, I live with, my father. I took care of my father. I lived with my father in Atlanta. And most of the people in the community in Henry County at that time were Hispanic, Latinos. And, no matter what I did, most of the Latinos in that community, they were against the idea of us holding these people where our property was flooding, where the streets had potholes, where the grass would be, as tall as me. Okay? So we want to make change. So on my end, I'm calling the code enforcement. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm taking pictures of the land flooding. I'm taking pictures of, people coming onto the land and living in abandoned trailers, and there's nothing said to these people. There's not enough lighting on the property, and overall, it's just not safe. And, it started to become a problem for me because I had caught some of the Latinos in my community. They cut my wires a couple of times because they were afraid that they were going to raise the rent, or they didn't want me there because I was black. They were using Santeria against me. They were, using holy death, especially the lady that was right across from me in the trailer right across from me. And she didn't like it because, I was the candy lady, the haberdashery, and people were coming buying from me. And her people, the Latinos out there, they were upset because they couldn't make any money because they were only selling, Latino products, and nobody didn't want that out there. They wanted what, I was selling. I was selling the big honey buns. I was selling bacon, egg, and cheese bagels, sandwiches. I was the haberdashery. So that's just one aspect of it. And, we're going to get into the other half, that when they started to come and remove trailers, I own my trailer, but I had transferred it into somebody else's name because they had evicted me. And, but they couldn't get rid of me because I was, still, I was still there. I sold it to somebody else. I put it in their name. And I was still living on the property. So they were very upset about that. So they couldn't get me off the property. So they decided to go back into their files even after they had known that my father had not lived on the property since 2011. They went back in the files this year 2025. And I had been renting the property up until 2022. I had been paying the landlord on the property until 2022, when they evicted me, when they didn't want to fix the property from flooding. And they decided this year that since they could not get me off of the property because my people were still living there in the property, they took my father to court. And my father hadn't lived there since, 2018. And these are some of the tactics that these people will play with the housing laws if you don't know your rights. So, I took them to court under discrimination in 2022. So, the court ruled against me, even with me showing that the creek that was behind my trailer flooded. The emails that I had asked the landowners for a different trailer, a different spot, a different area, to move me to another location. They didn't want to do that, So I called EPA. They made the water. They made the water in my trailer very, very. It was very stinky coming out of and we had a pump. We had a pump, and the water was very stinky coming out of the tap. It was brown coming out of the tap. And so I took pictures of it and sent it to the EPA. And again, the EPA came out, the government came out, and they found nothing. It's several things that I did up on the land. When you have a well, you have to send people out notice that this well water is good for consumption. We have been up on the land since 2019, and there had been no kind of notice or anything. It was hung in the office, and that's not how that's supposed to be. But since it was mostly Latinos, I tried to bring us together so that we could, have a conversation. But they were more concerned about, me being black, number one. And two, that they didn't want to pay anything higher. And three, that if I didn't like what was going on the property, then I should just move. So, again, these are the type of things that, we have went through on this property. And so finally here it is, 2025, after I have went through a lot. I had got the previous general manager, property manager, I had got him fired and terminated because he's going to tell me that the pipes, the water standing on top of the land like that is not the reason that the pipes bursting, because the strawberries that they plant, they have to cover them up with plastic so that they don't freeze. What that has to do with the pipes bursting because of standing water on the land when it rains. So these, again, I took these people to court, with HUD. And again, we lost because HUD ruled against us. And when you are taking people and holding people accountable under discrimination, I spent most of my money, fighting these cases, 3 cases in the state of Georgia, to help our people, to help our brown and indigenous people. You know what I'm saying? It's not welcome, but for them to litigate my case, for them to litigate, the case that my assistant through my father, is an unjust practice. They committed fraud by evicting my father from the land in order to take the trailer and take over the trailer, and take over, my assistant's property. She just told me about that, and I just wanted to let you guys know that there will be no justice for you. I have, gone to court and litigated cases, sexual harassment, discrimination, housing discrimination, denying a dwelling, denying, age discrimination, denying elderly people access to their house. US 42 3601. So you need to understand that when you're having these kinds of problems in Congress right now as we speak, there will be no justice for black and brown people, because they have twisted the law. Even if you bring all the evidence against them, they will twist the law against you. Because I have gone to court 3 or 4 times against these people, and they have not submitted, they have not given the amount and the due amount for the sicknesses they've caused to our people, for the harm that they've caused through the housing discrimination. They have not, given the correct amount. They want to give somebody $17,000, and I got my entire family in a house where there is, the owners knew that it was black mold. And we've discussed this on my channel. So, this is my 3rd case. It has finally come to an end. And, my assistant finally has let me know that the government has taken over the haberdashery. They've taken the trailer. And, and they did it in an unjust way. They did it in a way that they know that they could not take it from me. They couldn't take it from my assistant. So they went back into their files and dug up my father's name and put it in my father's name, even though my father hasn't lived there since 2018. And I just wanted to bring this to light, to you guys, in light of what's going on in the Congress, in light of what's going on in the U.S., that there aren't a lot of people that you're going to be able to take these people to court, because they can't be held accountable. This is why they did what they did, by erasing all the police officers, all the criminal records that they had, because they don't want to be held accountable. If you hold them accountable, that hurts them too bad. They're going to find a loophole to get away with it, so that you are not, successful. You won't be successful. So we have to come together, in order to, we're not even worried about going to court. The court is the street. We're going to handle it, not just with public opinion, but it goes to the street. When there is no justice, in your courtrooms, then, we can deliver justice in the street. So, I just wanted you guys to know this. We're going to talk a little bit more about this week in the coming days. And, I hope that you're understanding where I'm coming from. I was fighting, with my time, with my persons, with my money, against housing discrimination in 3 different counties. So I want you to know that these places that I'm telling you about, they're racist. Atlanta, DeKalb County, and Henry County, they're racist. the black people where they are gonna basically side with the entity. They're gonna side with the slave master and the colonizer against you. They're gonna use every loophole in the law in order to silence you. So I hope that this has reached you. I hope that you have understood what our mission is to stand up and fight where we are. It's to band together and unify to fight where we are. I hope that you have enjoyed my channel. I hope that you can reach out to me. I pray for each and every one of you. We are praying together. Please reach out to me in the description below. Book a session. Book a one-on-one consultation. Like, share, and subscribe over all of my platforms and follow me. I'm High Oracle, Reiki Spiritual Healer. Assalamu alaikum.